What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another YouTube video. My name is Mike. I'm a full-time media seller. I go around to thrift stores, I do bulk buys, all that fun stuff. Let's cut out the nonsense. Today's video is the new Scoutly triggers I am currently using. Just to preface this, right, I recently switched over from Scout IQ, a different scanning app, to Scoutly, so I kind of been testing the triggers in the background for the past few weeks, and by no means necessary are these triggers have to be a good fit for your business, right? We all have different businesses, different models, different buy costs, everything like that. So don't think that this trigger set has to be yours. This is basically a baseline that you can build off of and kind of figure out what works best for you. But this is going to be my trigger set. If you're interested in supporting me, right, I do have an affiliate link pinned down in the comment section. I get like 15% of your monthly costs for whatever Scoutly is, so 10 bucks or 35 bucks. So I get $1.50 if you sign up with my link. I can continue to feed the cats. I can continue to feed myself. Listen, this warehouse costs a whole bunch of money. Nah, but let me shut up here. We're going to get into the triggers here. You're going to see me. Well, you won't see me, but you'll hear me, right? So we're going to be at the computer screen. I'm going to kind of walk you through the triggers on the computer screen. You won't see me, but you'll hear me. You don't have to... I don't want people getting distracted by my beautiful face. So listen to what I'm talking about. I'll walk through the triggers for books, CDs, DVDs, video games, kind of explain a little bit my mentality behind it so you kind of have an idea how you want to shape the triggers to work for you. And then after that, we will hop back here. You will see me again, and we will walk through a bunch more of the settings on the phone because Scoutly has a lot of the settings you can only access through the phone app. So let's get right on into it. All right, so you can see here, this is the main triggers homepage. We only have one trigger set. That's all we need because FBA and Merchant Fulfilled is built into the same thing. So we are going to click this here. So if you've used any other scanning app, you can kind of see it looks the same as other ones, but there is a big difference here and we'll kind of get into it. So I do have the inbound cost per pound at 35 cents. I feel like that's going to continue to go up as time goes on, like everything else. So we are in our book triggers here. As you can see, this is the one that is highlighted. And this is where we get into the actual triggers. So they do allow for 20 triggers, different triggers. But honestly, it's just too much. You're overcomplicating things by having all these triggers for different little ranks from 0 to 50K, 50K to 100K. It's a waste of time, in my opinion. Keep things simple. That's the best way to basically be successful in selling on Amazon when it comes to media. So we have 7 triggers that are actually active here. You can tell they're enabled because the purple box is checked off. So as you go here, you're going to kind of see the same thing here twice almost. So what you're seeing here, this one is the FBA, and then we have the Merchant Fulfilled one. So just to kind of give you a walkthrough here, we have minimum sales count, how often it's selling. We have 6, basically once a month the item sells. Now this is the big number that people kind of can get fussy about. So if you're looking to have items that move quicker, you probably would want this at 12 or 18 or maybe even 20. For me, doing this full time, having as much inventory in stock as I can, I'm perfectly fine with 6. For you, this might be different. You might want it a little bit higher so you can turn your money over quicker in essence. And as you scroll over here, we have the min rank, the max rank. People that say only sell books under $1 million rank, they're not making, they're not doing this full time and making the income you think, because most books you're going to sell are going to be over $1 million ranks. So don't be scared to take higher ranks, slower moving books. There's a lot of profit in those. So our first trigger set is 1 to 1.5 million. We're not using the sales rank only. They have a lot of different options in here that you just don't need, and that's one of them. So we're going off FBA slot 1. That is just, the lowest FBA slot. Now, if there's no FBA slot, we go off the Merchant Fulfilled slot 3. I feel like that's kind of in the middle to give you a good indicator of maybe what it's priced at or what you could sell it for FBA. We're never worried about if the buy box is lower, but we are worried about if the buy box is higher. So say, for example, there's somebody on the listing at $5 FBA, but then there's 2 people on the listing at $15 FBA. So the buy box is going to go to one of the $15 one. So that's why we want to ping off the buy box instead of the lowest in that case. So we're not going off the person that doesn't know how to price their stuff. We're going off the people that actually know how to price it and what Amazon's saying is the correct price. So I have this checked off yes for every single FBA trigger that I have. You have 5% off the new buy box, 5% off Amazon. Target profit, $5 for me. This is different for everybody, like I said. My books on average cost me probably between 60 and 75 cents a piece overall. If you're paying a lot more per book, then this $5 needs to be higher. Maybe $6, $7, $8, depending on what your buy cost is. But work on getting your buy cost down, because that's going to give you a lot more flexibility when it comes to repricing. So we scroll over to the side here, and you see they actually let you have two different colors here, one for FBA and then one for merchant fulfilled. And you can change the colors to whatever color you want. You can see they have a bunch of different colors. I just kept mine lime green, and then I made it blue for merchant fulfilled. And you also can change the message, right? You could have FBA in this, and then you could have merchant fulfilled in this. I just have buy and merchant fulfilled buy. It's not a big deal to me. The colors are more, the descriptive than just the messages. So when you see the blue and you hear the accept sound, you know it's merchant fulfilled. If it's green, it's FBA. So you actually can go in and edit these. And this kind of gives you a little bit of a setup of how it exactly works. Just your basic stuff here that we already went over. You can do some things in here where you can require both. You can use the average sales rank, no sales rank. Personally, in my opinion, you don't need none of this, but you can do what you want, right? It's your business. You kind of can critique your triggers to basically work what's best for you within your business. So we scroll down here, ignore new FBA offers because we're scanning used books, used items. And if you're scanning new items, you know to switch over to new if you're scanning new DVDs or CDs. And there goes the buy box compared to the used buy box. Target profit here, this is where you're going to have your Amazon FBA, your $5, then your trigger effect. You can have different sounds. They have a bunch of different sounds loaded in, so you can mess around with this and have different sounds. Booyah sucks. I put on Booyah just to see what it sounds like, and me and Deb were sitting in the storage unit, and it's like some 1980 Microsoft Sam voice saying, Booyah. So you can have Booyah if you want, I guess, but I just kept mine on cash. And then here you can also change the message. Now, when you hit save, this is important. When you hit save here, you're going to see that it's no longer enabled. So you have to come back and recheck this off so that it's enabled. Even if you didn't make any changes within your trigger, when you go in and hit edit, you always have to come back and enable this. So that's just food for thought, because if you don't go back and enable it, it's not going to be active. And you see here, basically the next one is the same thing. So we're keeping the same sales count all the way throughout. The only reason we have different triggers, honestly, is for the profit. So you see the profit jumps up. We want to make at least $8 from 1.5 million to 3 million. If you could just have one trigger set, that's all I would need. The only reason we have these breaks is to up the profit, because it's going to take a little bit longer to sell. The price will probably go down a little bit more. So you got to basically be able to make more money. And like I said, the sales count is something you can mess with what works best for you. I'm fine picking up a book, merchant fulfilled, if it sells once every few months and just sitting it on the shelf and letting it sit there. I have no problem doing that. Now, if you're not doing merchant fulfilled, you can just wipe out these columns. You're only going to need the FBA columns. So the green columns are all the ones you need. Merchant fulfilled is something, basically, if you're doing this full time, it has to almost be a part of your business, especially with long-term storage fees. Going down to 6 months, you have to kind of adapt and adjust, right? I used to send in one eScore books. Now all of those will go to merchant fulfilled, and having Scoutly let you see both profits on the same screen. That's the whole main reason for changing. And now you're going to go down to the next set. We have 3 million to 6 million. We're looking for at least $15. Same thing. So the profit stays the same whether FBA or merchant fulfilled. And then our last one here, the important one, is we want a trigger set that's set up like this. So anything over 6 million is always going to be reject. We're not buying any book that's over 6 million in rank. So we set up something here so that anything over 6 million is always going to be a reject. You're never going to get a book that's 6 million to 50 million with 100 sales count or 101 sales count and a profit of $100. So we have this here basically. So all this stuff that's over 6 million is automatically a reject. You don't have to worry about scanning them and getting the gray screen that says, oh, well, this isn't within a trigger set. So that's the books. Pretty straightforward. Like I said, you kind of can manipulate these how you want. I also, for the merchant fulfill, go off the #1 use slot. I want to be the lowest priced in merchant fulfilled because that's all that matters. So you're going to always skip the FBA and the merchant fulfilled trigger set and always go off the lowest used slot, which is going to be merchant fulfilled. So that's another thing to kind of be on the lookout for. So that covers the books. We're going to jump over to DVDs. So basically the same thing, right? We have two different trigger sets here, and you'll see it kind of works the same as books. We have the same exact sales count, which you should be able to come to within your business, what you're comfortable selling with, how fast something has to sell. So you can keep those same sales count numbers throughout all your trigger sets, DVDs, books, CDs, video games. So you know exactly what you're looking for, how fast you want something to sell. So you can manipulate these how you want to do it. With me, it's 6 and 1, right? 6 FBA, 1 merchant fulfilled. Max ranks 100,000 in DVDs. DVDs work a lot different than books when it comes to rank, but you can see basically everything else is set up the same in here as it was in the books. We are looking for at least $5. This could be higher because most people pay more for video games, and you do know that we have 0 buy costs. So I hear this, well, you don't have a buy cost. Well, everywhere you go doesn't have the same prices. So how could you put a buy cost in here that isn't accurate? If you have $1 in there, the math's going to be harder if you go in and things are $3. By keeping that at 0, you know what your profit is. You can do the quick math in your head while you're out at different sources and come to the conclusion of how much you're going to make, right? So you might hit a DVD that's profitable for, we'll say, $6 profit. It'll show up accept, but they're charging $4 for that DVD. You know to leave it behind. So you have to do some simple quick math here on the fly, but that's the easiest way, in my opinion, to do it. So we have the same thing, FBA 1, U slot 3. The highest we go up to in DVDs is 250,000. Anything more than that, I think, is just, you're kind of pushing your luck here. So I wouldn't go above 250,000. A lot of people won't go above 150,000 in DVDs. Either way, that's fine. That works, whatever works for you. Kind of tweak these to your needs, but this is how I have it set up, and this is what works best for my business. And then we have the same one, the extra one down here, to exclude all the DVDs that are over 250,000. It just makes everything show up red, so we don't have to worry about looking at our phone and double checking things while we're out scanning. So there goes the DVD ones. Pretty easy setup. It's only, 5 triggers. I don't do VHS. I know there is money in some VHS, but it's overall, in my opinion, it's a waste of time. Music CDs. So same thing here. We have 5 triggers set up, and this is a carbon copy of the DVD sets. Besides, the profits are lower. So most places around me, my CDs are between 25 cents and at most 75 cents, maybe $1 if it's a set. So I can shoot for lower profits with the CDs because I know my buy cost for CDs is going to be a lot lower than, say, DVDs or video games. So that's why I have $4.50 here and only $6. Same exact thing. We have our 4 triggers set up, and then the one that's automatically going to decline everything. And it's you're literally just copy and paste in here as you go. So that covers the music CDs here. It's pretty straightforward. Now the video games. Video games, you see here, we only have 3 trigger sets, right? We're not buying a video game if the rank is over 100,000. I think anything higher than that, you're kind of pushing it. Sure, you might sell something sealed here or there, but honestly, I think 100,000 is a good cutoff for video games. We're looking for at least $6 profit, and even with the video games, a lot of them, when you go in thrift stores, they're probably charging $5-6. So if you hit an accept in a video game at $6 profit, make sure you're factoring out how much you're paying for it, right? You don't want to be making $1 or $2 before you send it in, because the price is probably going to go down. So I don't have software or other setup. We're only dealing in books, DVDs, CDs, and video games. So just to go back to the book one here and reiterate, you see here that this box is not checked off, even though I checked it. You have to check it, and then you have to hit save up here, and then when you go back in, it will be enabled again. Use this to figure out what works best for you. These are not concrete trigger settings for anybody. Everybody's business is different. Feel free to mess around with the profit. Don't get carried away. You do not want 20 triggers set up when you're out scanning. You're going to wind up missing out on a lot of profit, and it just doesn't make sense in my opinion. You know me, I like to keep it easy, keep the money basically turning over, keep the inventory going into Amazon. That's the best way to be. So now we're going to switch over here. You guys are going to see me again. I'm going to be on my phone covering some of the settings. All right, so we covered basically everything you could do on the computer within Scoutly. The phone has a lot more that we can actually cover here. So let me get my screen recording and I'll kind of show you guys behind the scenes a little bit of some settings you probably want to mess around with in your phone. And this is how you're going to have to go about doing it. It's only available on the phone, at least that I know of. So let me get my screen recorded. So you're going to see the dashboard here is going to pop up in a second. So this is your standard dashboard, right? If you have any other scanning app, they all kind of look the same. You have your database in the top corner here, your Scout, their listing software in the right. One thing I do want to basically point out here is if you're using the database, make sure that the database is updated. You've seen mine wasn't updated since the 29th of December. So if I was going out today, I would want to update the database again. It doesn't take that long. You do see it gives you the option for media or non-media, and you could do both if you wanted to have the database for other items besides media. So that's pretty nice. I did download it on my Wi-Fi. It took about 5 minutes to download, but I have pretty decent Wi-Fi, so just kind of a heads up, if you're out in the wild trying to download it, it'll probably take a little bit longer. So make sure your database is current, right? You don't want to be scanning off last week's news. Another thing you got to make sure here, if you go into your triggers here, you see this button up top, it says download. So this is if you make any changes to your trigger, say you make changes on your computer or even in here, you have to download the updated trigger set. And that's instantaneous. Every time I've used it, whether I was out or not, it does it automatically. So you just hit download. Yeah, your triggers will be replaced. So there you go, you're good to go. You want to make sure your triggers, if you make any changes, are fully updated. So when you're out scanning, everything is working the way it should be. So those are two kind of main things to make sure, little nuances you got to make sure that you have in place, or the whole thing's going to be a disaster, right? Those are two big things that you got to make sure you're up to date on. So let's go into the menu here. So here's, you're going to see a whole bunch of different things, right? So you got download, turbo lister, operating mode. That is basically, what are you using, right? Are you using the database only? Are you using the database and live on not found? So if they don't find something, it'll go scan for live as well. And the same thing down below, or you have live only, right? So it's one of those things here. It's whatever you want to do. Personally, I just use live only. I did use the database. If you're going to use the database only, I highly recommend, so you go in the thrift store, you scan all your items, you use the database. Before you check out, switch it to live only and scan everything to make sure that it's actually pulling the right numbers, the right items as well. So that's how you go in and you can change your operating mode. So you have a few different things here: buyback chart, lock screen, data test. So here it goes, kind of where you can get funky with it, right? So you can have your sales ranks colored. Don't waste time doing this. So many people get caught up with trying to make these things like, oh, this rank's got to be this. Who cares, right? You have your base trigger set. That's all you're really worried about. But they do have the option if you want to waste a whole bunch of time and not source a whole bunch and not make a whole bunch of money. So that's there as well. They do have audio options. So you can go in like you can on the computer. You can choose the audio for different, if you want your step sound to be different or whatever you want, you can change the audio sounds, which is, I don't know, I think it's unnecessary. I would rather have it a standard sound so everybody has the same thing, because distractions, right? As a reseller, you get distracted easily. So I really didn't mess with any of that. What else do we have here? You have your triggers. You can go in and edit your triggers on your phone. I just prefer to do it on the computer. Everything's laid out a lot easier. So the main one you want to go into here is settings. So this is where you're going to have all your different things going on, right? The history chart, you can actually have that show up when you're scanning. The wholesale integration, which if you're scanning books, it's the little boxes that pop up like sell back your book and all these other companies. So I always have that turned on because it gives you kind of a good indicator if a book is actually really worth it. So I highly recommend having that turned on, just so you know, hey, maybe you're on the fence like, oh, is this a good buy? Well, if the buyback company is willing to pay you a decent amount of money for it, then it's a good buy. So it's kind of like another way to just double check yourself. So make sure you have that turned on as well. Use merchant fulfill when no FBA. I have that on, right? You got to be pulling off something. You just don't want to not just pull against nothing. If there's no FBA, it can pull off the merchant fulfilled, and then we can figure out from there. So the whole point of this app and me joining the app is display FBA versus merchant fulfilled profit. That's one of those things here. I'll pop up two different examples somewhere on the screen as well. You'll see the green one is just FBA, and then the merchant fulfilled one for me, the color is blue instead of green, and it says MF buy instead of just buy. So That's the main thing in me doing this. I don't have to go back and double scan everything for merchant fulfilled to see if it's worth it. I can see them both at the same time on the same screen, and within the triggers, it makes it foolproof to know whether or not you're going to merchant fulfill it or FBA it. So that's another good thing to have. Average sales rank, it's one of those things, I just have it turned on. I don't use it as any indicator, right? I'm going off the rank from when I'm scanning it. Some people like to go off average sales rank. You're overcomplicating things. As you can see, I like to keep things simple, easy going. I don't want to live the headache-filled life of all the nonsense. Restriction warning, it'll actually tell you if you're restricted. Benefit with this is they'll actually speak to you, right? If you have your volume up, you'll get some girl. It's just some voice they have. It'll say like not found, restricted. So you'll actually hear it tell you that you're restricted in an item or if the item isn't found. So they have voices built into this, which is kind of nice. Personally, most of the time I don't have sound on when I'm scanning because I'm looking and paying attention as I'm going. Full price, the reject letter. So you can have this thing actually add to a buy list, which is integrated with their listing software. So if you add it to the buy list, I'm actually going to turn that off because I don't use their listing software. It'll automatically have it ready to go to basically list through their listing software and get it sent into Amazon. So that is a nice feature if you use their listing software. Personally, for me, I don't need it. You want to make sure you have your trigger ranks on, your triggers enabled. Display rank color, not a big deal to me. Yet again, just something you kind of get wasting time. The camera vibration on buy, I personally like that while I'm out, especially if I don't have my sound on. You'll hear it vibrate on the shelf. That's a huge benefit to me because I'm not in thrift stores with my volume 10,000 because I respect other people's surroundings and things like that. But yeah, so the settings here, it kind of gives you other voice prompts for other things as well. This is the important things you want to go in and make sure. When I first loaded the app, it didn't have the wholesale integration built. Like when I first scanned, it didn't have the wholesale, right? So I'm figuring to myself like, well, they got to have it. So I had to go in and check that off. So when you first install the app, it's probably going to, you're going to have to go in and add the wholesale integration. So that kind of covers everything, right? You see my triggers. Like I said, just because they're my triggers doesn't necessarily mean they have to be your triggers. It's just something to build off of, right? You're not Used Book Guide 2.0. You don't have the same exact sources, the same exact buy cost, and everybody's business is different. So I just kind of wanted to make this video to get it out there. Everybody has a baseline to start with, and build it from there. Build it perfectly to fit your business needs. And that's going to do it. As always, I appreciate y'all watching. Make sure to comment, like, and subscribe. And stay tuned for more used book videos. Bye-bye.